Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's Milford School Committee meeting here at the Milford Teachers Resource Center. It's Thursday, April 16th, 2026, and this is our annual reorganizational meeting following our annual town election. So I guess as a senior member per policy, I'm opening the meeting, and the first item on the agenda is the reorganization, and the first item is the election of a new chairperson. So with that, do we have a nomination for chairperson?
Yes, I'd like to nominate Michael Akajanian for chair.
Okay. Michael, if you're elected, will you accept the position?
I will.
Do we have a second? Second by Megan. Do we have any additional nominations? Okay, seeing none. All in favor for Michael being our incoming chairperson? That's unanimous. So with that, I'll turn it over to Michael.
Thank you. So the next order of business is the election of vice chair. Do you have any nominations for vice chair?
Yeah, I'll nominate Brendan Rickert.
Right, nomination by Brendan Rickert. Any other nominations? Do I have a motion for? Second. Do I have a motion for Brendan to be vice chair?
That one, isn't it?
Motion by Meg, second by Chris. All in favor? It's unanimous. Motion passes. And next order of business. Thank you, Matt.
You're welcome.
Is secretary. Do I have a motion to make the superintendent the secretary of the committee?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Second by Matt. All in favor?
Yes.
It's unanimous. Good job, Frank.
How come you didn't ask me if I wanted to, if I was going to accept the nomination?
He's not very seasoned in this role yet.
That's great. Thanks, everybody. Just a few things. I'm excited to be chairperson. Thank you. Just one thing I want to remind everybody, and this is a little personal, a little vulnerable. I am a lifelong stutterer, so there are times where I might pause, that it might seem like I'm forgetting something. It's me probably reorganizing my thoughts. Or if I do stutter, don't complete the sentence for me. Let me stumble through it, and that's okay. All right. So that's my only request. Other than that, it'll be business as usual. All right. Thanks. All right. So the next agenda item is Emily Jantz is our student rep. The floor is yours.
Thank you. So to start, I'll just give a fun update about what's going on at school. So we just started the last quarter of the year already. AP classes are just about wrapping up curriculum, and then AP exams start a week after April break. That will be 2 weeks of exams, and then which takes us to May 15th, which is actually the seniors' last day of school already. That will lead them into finals and senior week. The junior class had a very successful prom last week, and now seniors are looking ahead to theirs in May. And then the music department left for their trip to Hershey Park today, so they'll compete tomorrow. And I heard they took a double-decker bus, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah, I saw it, actually.
You saw it?
Yeah.
I'm a little jealous. I wish I
Pretty cool.
saw it.
I saw it too. I was behind it on Congress Street. I was wondering what it was.
Next, I want to talk a little bit about something that's been going around at school, which is about technology. So right now we kind of have two opposing forces clashing heads about personal computers. And I think both sides have pretty solid arguments, honestly. So on one side, we have many staff members that are finding that students bringing in personal laptops, especially the MacBooks, is really distracting because it's basically like a giant phone. And also some students having MacBooks while others can't afford it just creates a larger socioeconomic divide. And then on the other hand, we have many students who are complaining about the Chromebooks not being efficient enough or practical enough to get simple tasks done. So because of this, many students have turned to MacBooks, including myself, because they're just much faster and more functional. And then I guess I'll share some of my personal experience with this. I started bringing my MacBook in earlier this year because the Chromebook just wasn't cutting it for me. There were multiple occasions when I couldn't complete any of my classwork in class just because it wouldn't load. And I was curious enough to run a speed test to see if it was the internet, which it wasn't. So yeah, my MacBook really helps me get my tasks done faster, more efficiently, and more productive, but also I can see how it can be really distracting because, I mean, you can literally mirror your phone to it. So we've been throwing around a couple of ideas for solutions at School Improvement Council, but we don't have anything solid yet. It's in the works. Hopefully I have more of an update next time, but I just wanted to give you a little heads up about that. That's pretty much all I have.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
That's good enough.
I have one. There was discussion with technology, I think a few years ago, where we actually talked about having Chromebooks with a little bit more power for the older grades. So maybe we need to bring that back up.
Interesting.
Because the
Yeah.
Chromebooks for the younger grades, you don't need as much RAM or
Right,
whatever.
yeah.
And so the question was, for the high school, do we need to have Chromebooks that are a little bit more powerful?
Yeah.
So I'm not sure where that went. We'll check on it.
Can I just add one thing, Michael?
Yeah.
Just another piece of the discussion, Emily, which I think is important. I remember, so Robbie did the same with his MacBook because he was super into graphics, and like that was the only way he could execute on
yeah.
that, right? But I do think as we think about implementing our technology policies, the only way to really do that consistently is via a school-issued device. So as the
Right.
conversation,
Yeah.
just that that's an important part of the conversation.
Yeah. So one thing we've definitely been talking about at School Improvement Council is, can we get MacBooks, school-issued MacBooks for students? I know they just made like those MacBook Neos, which are kind of like the school version. They're cheaper. But I think we said, like, however much we're paying for Chromebooks right now, we would pay the same amount for however many MacBooks that would give us, which is less. And then we'd put them on carts, and teachers could, like, rent them out for for the students.
Mhm.
So we've talked about that a little bit, but yeah.
Cool.
One quick
Chris?
question, going back. The slow speed, is it more for general classwork, or do you find it even like for taking like an online test or anything like that?
Yeah, a bit of both. So last year, like in my history class, everything was based on Google Docs, and just getting it to type, like typing it and getting it to pop up on my screen would take forever. But then also now, like if you bring in a personal computer, you still have to use your Chromebook for tests.
Right.
So when I bring in my Chromebook to take a test, it takes forever just to get it up, loading, and then get my score back. Yeah, so.
Thank you.
Matt?
The only question I really have for you is, are you guys opening, or do you have a process to open tickets with the tech department to report these issues with them directly?
We do. Although I don't think it's very like well known, or I don't know.
Okay.
I don't think students know how to access that.
I think that maybe is something that we may want
Yeah.
to discuss too, about pushing out information. If there's a lot of concern coming to you
Mhm.
guys about slowness, they're going to
Yeah.
want to know, because one of the things they're going to do is try to track which of these devices are older ones, or if there's a pattern to what's going on, so they can try to identify it. So I would definitely try to share that information. They should. Don't feel bad. Open as many tickets as it happens to you, and let them handle it.
Mhm.
Certainly that'll help anyway.
Yeah, I liked what you said about the older devices too, because I think what we do is you have the same device for all of your 4 years throughout high school. So my device is pretty old. Maybe that's why it's pretty slow. I don't know. So
Yeah, you do. You're on a lease plan basically. So when you get it, generally it's supposed to be new, and then you have it. And as you've probably seen over the years, things get faster, but the device doesn't, because the hardware doesn't change. So
Right.
it could be something like that. But
That's it. Any other comments?
Just one, Michael. So one thing we do, you may have seen, on the agendas, we always talk about like future agenda items. At a future meeting, would you be willing to come and just bring student perspective on use of AI in school? In terms
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, just kind of general,
Definitely.
how people are using it today. I'd just be curious to kind of hear that from
Yeah.
a student perspective.
Mhm.
Awesome, thanks.
And very candid. That'd be great. All right, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.
All right, invitation to speak. There's nobody here. Any announcements, correspondence, or distributions?
Yes.
Craig?
I'm pleased to announce that we've selected O'Connor Studios as our district-wide photography partner, beginning with the 26-27 school year, actually beginning with graduation. O'Connor Studios is a locally owned, right here in Tewksbury. It's a company with over 60 years' experience photographing New England schools. Their program focuses on a consistent family-friendly experience across the district, which includes a district-wide family plan where the first 2 children are full price, but any additional children are free, providing added value for our families with multiple students. In addition, every student receives a print ensuring that all families have access regardless of the purchase. So we were pretty happy with the presentation that O'Connor Studios gave to us. It was myself, all the principals, and a couple parents from PTOs. So we selected O'Connor's from a group of 4 or 5 different studios. So looking forward to that partnership moving forward.
When you say we, who's we?
The school district. We
The
need to
district or the PTO's pick?
ask a question again.
So who picked the photographer? Did the PTOs pick it or the
Principals, and there was a couple parents that were from PTOs.
Thank you.
We invited all the PTOs to send representatives. A couple people came.
I have 2 things, both about Woodland. Number one, they had their art show Tuesday, I think. It was awesome. I really liked it last year, how they staggered it through the floors and the stuff was decorated everywhere. They stepped it up this year with a glow-in-the-dark room in the art room, which was really cool. The art was fantastic. The way they set it up to flow through so people could see it and come out the other side was amazing. I think that the kids did a fantastic job. The art was really good, and there was a lot of people there. And the other piece I was going to bring up was the STEM club that just wrapped up that was also at Woodland, where they were doing things with robots and rockets. So on Monday, I brought my 2 younger daughters there early and watched the 5th grades, their 5th grade sister, but it was, I think, 3rd, 4th, and 5th that launched rockets in the parking lot. And it was very entertaining to watch these things fly all over the place and over the field, and the kids were having a great time. And I believe that was put on through community use, but they had really good attendance. There was 2 nights. I think there was a Thursday night as well. But it was great. The kids were very excited about STEM. Anytime they can work that stuff in, it's fantastic to see. So I'm glad they did that, and I'm glad Woodland was able to host that.
I have a quick. I just have a quick update for our artwork. So these are examples from Stacy Middle School work around optical illusions and illustration units. The 7th graders created, I'm going to get this word wrong, but a gamograph drawings, which are 2 images cut, reassembled, and folded to create shifting visual effects. Oh. And then our 8th graders, students explored fan art by transforming similar cartoon imagery, which included SpongeBob SquarePants characters, into warped and imaginative designs. So you can see that here on our board for art. Very close.
Thank you, Meg.
I'll just layer in some additional kudos for community use in Woodland. They're also in their 2nd session of newspaper club, and my son is participating and came home a few weeks ago saying the president of the Celtics was coming to speak to them, and I'm like, that just it can't be right. And lo and behold, the president of the Celtics is a Milford High alum and came to spoke to a newspaper
Really?
club, which I thought was super cool.
Did not know
so
that.
very fun.
That's impressive.
Yeah,
Very cool. Pretty awesome. Any other announcements, correspondence, distributions?
I just have one, I guess. I meant to do this in my opening remarks, but I think it fits here well enough. I just want to congratulate you and Brendan for coming back and thanking you, because we need the leadership and stability that you provide here.
Thank you. All right, moving on. General chairperson update. Since I've been chair for all of 18 minutes, I'm going to defer to Matt.
Thank you. Last one, I thought I was off the hook, but I received a couple phone calls this afternoon, so I just want to let you guys know I received some feedback late tonight from FinCom, and I also spoke to the finance director. So we do have to have a few more discussions. They had some more questions about our budget and our discussion with FinCom last night. So Melissa will be sending something out for Zoom, likely Wednesday or Thursday of next week, if everybody's around for a half hour. So otherwise,
that's with them, Matt, or that's just
no,
the committee?
just
Sorry. Okay,
us.
thanks. Yeah,
Just us at administration.
thanks.
Otherwise, I don't think I have anything else.
Great. Matt, thank you for all your work as chair for 2 years.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Take a break. All right, we're going to move on to the MSBA project update. We're going to actually move this agenda item. James is on his way. He should be here about 7:30, so we're going to move on that. This was a request by myself with the reimbursement. It's a nice presentation. We had it at building committee last night, or 2 nights ago. It was great, so he's coming in. All right, so let's move on to agenda item 7, annual appointment of the superintendent to the BICO board.
You want me to read this?
Sure.
Okay. As required by Chapter 43, all board members need to be annually appointed to the Collaborative Board of Directors. So this is just I guess it's a formality that you all have to, you have to vote appointing me to the BICO Board of Directors. It has to happen before the end of the school year.
Do I have a motion to appoint our superintendent to the BICO board? Motion by Matt, second by Derek. All in favor? It's unanimous. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Everybody, I brought a pen today.
Very, very prepared.
I know, right?
Kristen.
Right? I brought a pen.
Chair.
Thanks. Sorry. Big deal. So report of the interim assistant superintendent for teaching and learning.
All right, so I have two updates for you. One is around kind of closing out the school year. So I know it's not the end of the school year, but I do think April vacation sometimes triggers kind of the beginning of the end planning. And so I wanted to provide you an update with some of the work that's been happening across the district this year and where we're going for next year. So let's start with the literacy department because that's one of our priorities this year. They're working on closing out year one of exponential learning implementation at the K-5 level. The week after break, each school will be engaging in their final learning walk with the TNTP consultant. That's a partnership through the PRISM grant that we got from DESE. And this will be our final learning walk for the school year with the outside consultant to collect the data and really use that data to inform next year's planning in terms of what are the supports for the teachers in year two of implementation. This afternoon, we actually had a PRISM council meeting, which is, PRISM is the name of the grant, so that's why it's called the PRISM Council, but it's for our literacy teachers K through 5. And really what the focus of those council meetings have been is around what's working, what's not working, what's going on with exponential learning, and what is some of the work that this council can do to support the teachers in their buildings. And so today they reviewed some of the professional development survey data that has been collected throughout the course of the year to really identify what was it about professional development that was supportive and what was not supportive and what are teachers looking for more of. And so they've started to do some of the planning around that for next year. Last week in mathematics, we had a closeout session for our district-wide math committee. This year we focused on vertical advisory, building-based planning, and their own professional development, which was led by the people on that committee. And listening to them about what they want to do next year, it was very obvious that they want to continue to learn together, but the importance of teacher-led professional development sessions. So they have so much to share, and they really appreciated when each other kind of got up and led the meeting as opposed to an administrator. And so we're thinking about how do we incorporate that more, not just in math committee, but back in their building so that they can share some of the expertise that they've developed. The week we come back from break, we'll have our closeout pre-K-12 district-wide CTL meetings. This year we brought back the, I guess, district-wide conversations as CTLs that were put on pause a little bit with COVID. We've met 5 times. Most of those conversations have been around vertical alignment and content-based teams, and so it has given the time for the content-based teams to have conversations across buildings and what's working and not working. The Monday we get back, we'll actually meet together as a whole group, and I'll facilitate what's worked with this structure, what hasn't worked with this structure, what do they need more time to do across these district-wide conversations that are so important, especially as we think about horizontal and vertical alignment. And then the last one that I'll highlight for you is our mentoring and induction programming. So year one hires work one-on-one with a mentor, but it's really facilitated by 4 mentor coordinators across our district. They check in with the mentor coordinators, but also with myself 4 times throughout the course of the year. And so I'll be meeting with them to kind of hear what's bubbling up for our year one hires that they need more support in, what are they looking for, especially as we think about rolling out next year with any new hires that we have in our district. And so those are just some of the highlights in terms of what we're closing out. There's a lot of other great things that are happening across different departments that I'm not highlighting here, but those are kind of the ones that came to top of mind. So any questions about that?
Meg?
Is there sort of an, and I know it's not specific to what you just spoke to, but is there sort of like an end of the year kind of recap that gets done for the new ELA curriculum in terms of like how year one went?
You say recap, are you?
Like
Thinking-
debrief, I don't know, sort of like collecting information as teachers. I'm sure it's going on all the time, but curious.
Yeah, so in terms of like learning walk data and classroom data, there's district benchmarks that we were trying to hit in terms of, I mean, one of them is like 95% of the time when we walk into classrooms, we want to see high quality texts in front of kids.
And we had the
And so-
consultant, right, that sort of independently came in, right? Didn't we have an independent consultant?
TNCP.
Sorry,
Yes,
thank you.
yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
yes.
sorry.
So that's the learning walk that
Okay.
we'll finish with
Yep.
the week after April vacation. So we'll have this like big learning walk data
Okay.
piece.
Got it.
In terms of like an end of year survey or feedback survey, I don't know specifically when
Okay.
and if that's happening. I would assume and can follow up with
Yeah.
Carol about that. That's a typical session. And then the last professional development session is typically a like, what worked, what
Got
didn't
it.
work, where
Sure.
are we,
Okay.
where do we want to go next year, and then
Yeah.
a lot of that planning kind of happens over the summer.
Okay,
piece
just
of
thinking as we
things.
launch the second year,
Yeah.
kind of with those learnings.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
And I
That's
know that we're having conversations right now around like, what does year 2 look like? What is that backwards
Okay.
design? In math, the like story was like unit unpacking, assessments, instructional practices. Literature is a little bit different.
Got it.
So I don't know what
Fair.
exactly the theme is going to be.
Okay.
We will also be looking at our phonics and phonological awareness
Okay.
programs because there's two sides that make a
Mhm.
reader, right? There's knowledge building, and then there's the phonics piece
Sure.
of things and the decoding piece of things. And so we focus solely on the knowledge building.
Got it.
We know that we need to do some analysis on the phonics, and that'll come into play next year
Okay,
for sure.
interesting. Okay, thank
What
you.
that looks like is still
Yep.
to be determined.
Super helpful. Thank you. Thanks, Michael.
Anyone else?
All right, my other update for you is this week I received a Project Lead the Way research study briefing that I just wanted to share some of the findings because they were really positive. And so Project Lead the Way completed a longitudinal research study across all districts in Massachusetts. So this is not specific to Milford. We offer PLTW classes starting in starting in grade K through grade 5 with our STEM programming. When students get to Stacy Middle School, that's where we've invested in an engineering pathway, a computer science pathway, and we're bringing in the medical detectives pathway next year in grade 8. And the purpose of that is really so that the high school students, when they're choosing electives, they kind of know what we're talking about when we say, do you want to be a part of the engineering pathway or the computer science pathway or the biomedical pathway? And so this research is really confirming that we should continue to invest in PLTW because it's making a difference for kids. So it says that PLTW students see significant learning gains. It's statistically significant in terms of student achievement gains in both math and science, specifically at the high school level, and that it can translate to 2 additional months of learning for kids. These benefits are reaching across all students. So whether you cut this by low-income families, English learners, or students with disabilities, we're seeing the same type of results for all these different demographics. PLTW students are more likely to go to college. Students who take PLTW courses in high school are 10% more likely to enroll in college than demographically and academically similar peers who don't take a PLTW course. And then the last one was that students and teachers see the value. Students are reporting being more interested in PLTW than any of their other courses, and that PLTW courses are more relevant to their future. Teachers are reporting that they make them more satisfied when teaching and more effective in the classroom. And so I think it's really exciting data to see. Again, it's not specific to Milford students, but Milford's data in terms of survey collection and student outcomes was a part of this, and this is specific to Massachusetts, not PLTW across the nation. So I guess it tells me that we should continue to invest in the STEM fields, and a partnership with PLTW is really important for our students because of the student outcomes. Any questions about that?
Carrie, it's Stacy. Which class is it embedded in?
It's embedded in our STEM class.
Okay.
And so in 6th grade, they engage in something called design and modeling, which is around engineering.
Mm-hmm.
In 7th grade, they engage in computer science for innovators and makers, which is computer science.
Got it.
And next year, we'll be able to bring in the medical detectives piece, which is biomedical.
And with the schedule, everyone would get that at some point during
Yeah,
there.
the
Awesome.
only thing that's tricky there is when we have students that are in performing arts,
Yep.
they don't get to cycle through all
As many,
6 of the
exactly.
specials that we
Okay.
offer.
Yeah.
But all students that are cycling through all 6 specials get
Awesome.
1 in 6, 1 in 7th, and 1 in 8th.
Awesome. And we have a pathway night coming up. You want to talk about that? That's exciting. Because would that be tied in?
It's
PLTW
a
is
little-
one
yeah.
of our pathways.
It's a high school endeavor, and then happening May 7th, which I believe is also a school committee night. But it includes like all the engineering, the physics.
That's great.
I think we had I don't remember if this is the second year or third year that
That's
we've done it, but I remember it was either last year or the year before. There was a student down there that built his own arcade.
Well, they were in the
That was
hallway.
pretty cool.
Yes,
Um,
exactly.
And I don't know, there was all kinds of different inventions.
You could
I
be a
guess.
weather-man, I recall.
Yeah,
or
there
weather
was.
person.
Yeah,
if I recall.
with the green screen
Yeah.
and everything, yeah.
Very
So
Okay. Awesome.
they do a lot of cool things down there.
That's great.
Yeah, and I just found the email, and I guess it's specifically trying to target our 7th and 8th grade students and families so that they can really see what Milford
Sure.
High School has to offer. They're going to talk about early college, One Goal, clean energy, PLTW, and other pathways that exist.
That's great. Thanks, Mary.
And it is 6 to 8 on Thursday, May 7th.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you for the update. Report of the school business administrator.
Hi, I don't have much update on finance because the cutoff date for FY26 spending is tomorrow, and most of the orders should be in tomorrow. And next meeting, I'll report a new budget update. Personnel, the only change from last meeting was we added the column for either grant funded or general fund funded. So if you can see the pathway showcase event planning, you can see all the names behind the work, and also the Ready Set K summer school is grant funded. Also, the credit recovery camp during the April break is grant funded, and others just a regular replacement. Any questions about personnel?
Quickly, Mr. Chair? Yeah. Yeah, thank you very much. And obviously, as you noted, you have that column for whether it's grant funded or just from the general budget. So really appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Any other questions? No? Thanks, Glenn. All right. James is not here yet. So let's run into the consent agenda. Does anybody want to pull anything from the consent agenda? So we have our warrant, we have the minutes, professional development, and acceptance of gifts. Nobody wants to pull anything? Do you have a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented? Motion by Brendan, second by Chris. All in favor? It's unanimous. Motion.
I'll abstain.
Oh,
I'll abstain.
okay. 6 yes, 1 abstain. Motion passes.
So, Mr. Chair, will you be going over the gifts?
I will.
Excellent.
Yeah, I want to say thank you. So we have a gift from Climate Youth Climate Solutions for $1,000. Thank you to that. And then we have Association of Teachers in Mathematics for $493. Thank you for that. And Consigli Construction for improvement on the scoreboard sign. And thank you for that. Any subcommittee updates? So since next meeting we'll reassign the subcommittees, if you can send Melissa what subcommittees you want to be on, and so we can go ahead and appoint them next meeting, that'd be great.
Sounds good.
All right. Let's see if James is.
You can try to connect with them, Mr. Chair.
Yeah. Why don't we do a 5-minute recess? Do you have a motion to make a 5-minute recess?
Motion.
Motion by Matt, second by Brendan. All in favor? We'll recess for a little bit. And so everybody, you've met James before, I think. He's our OPM for the.
Hi, I'm John.
Nice to meet you, John. The new high school. He's here specifically. We have talked about the reimbursement rate, and This is something that has been talked about throughout the town, and it's way more complicated than just saying it's one number. And so I asked James to come to the building committee, and then was like, hey, let's come to the school committee, just to get us all up to speed. Feel free to ask lots of questions, because it's as James said the other night, it's clear as mud. So please, please, please ask a lot of questions.
Yes.
Thanks, James. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mike. And to that end, Craig saw this yesterday, Chris saw it yesterday, Mike saw it yesterday. So please, you guys, this group better than I do. Feed me the questions that they're asking or not asking, and we'll go from there.
Will do.
Kind of what he alluded to is that it's trying to think out the best phrasing for it, but there's a bit of a paradigm shift. Or you think you're heading at it this way, but really it's this way. You have to come at it from this way and think about and so there's a shift in how you think. So hopefully I'll get that across to you guys, and we'll go from there. Sorry, this is you're getting a snippet of our school building committee. I have to do a little report out, but what I wanted to do, and what I'm doing is, in the past we would give you like the general, definitions, and there's caps and all this, but on this presentation I am actually using a real project, and so the intent here is don't focus on the numbers per se. Really, it's just the procedures and how the formula, how it's getting done, and how that applies to us. So that's just the warning and caveat. The point of this slide is really just to show you that this is from this is taken from the MSBA website. This is all up there, and I'll be using that number just to show you. This is Agawam, and I'm going to be going through. So one of those first, let's go through what everyone assumes, right? This is on the left. Assumed formula. The total project budget they had at 229. These are all Agawam's numbers, and so you think, okay, they had a reimbursement rate assigned to them. Theirs was 65. Ours is like around 73 right now. Maximum, so multiply, easy math. And now, that's not the MSBA formula, and that's not how we should be doing things. The MSBA formula is there's a total project budget, less ineligible costs and contingencies and scope exclusions. You take away the ineligible costs, then you get the number that they multiply that reimbursement rate by. And so you think, oh yeah, well, that's, so 76 million is what those exclusions came to be. That's a $50 million swing. So if you were doing the math your way, and then you got the MSBA's math, and by the way, I'm sorry, let me back up and say that these numbers are specifically from the estimated construction and total project cost data at schematic design. All that really is, what you need to get from that is this is what we submitted to the MSBA, a cost estimate, what the total project budget is, and this is the number that the MSBA is agreeing to as their maximum reimbursement rate. I'm sorry, their facilities grant. So that's why this is important. So yeah, how did we? Where's the swing? Well, as I mentioned, they pay on eligible costs. Okay, what are the eligible costs? Again, paradigm shift, right? You ask the question, they define what the ineligible costs are and subtract that out to give you the eligible costs. So that's one of those fun things that's kind of going on. The ineligible costs are these last 3 pages in the MGL in Mass General Law, and and basically they fall into 3 buckets. There's things that are categorically ineligible. There's things that are like over a space limit. We only do so many classrooms. We're only doing so many. The auditorium can only be so large. That's when I say space. That's what we're talking about. And then, or over a cost limit. We also call it. You'll hear me say cap. And so examples of categorically ineligible is, they won't pay for legal services. They won't pay for site acquisition. Rental or storage costs, that means modulars, and what district admin offices, or swimming pools, skating rinks, greenhouses, and indoor tennis courts. One way to think about that for you guys is to justify it. not every school has district admin offices. Elementary schools don't. Not every school has swimming pools, skating rinks, greenhouses, or need modular classrooms, or need legal services, or site acquisition. So the MSBA really is trying to have a formula that works for every single project. That will, and impartially too, if you think of it that way. You know, you can imagine if the next town over had legal costs and they paid for them, but you didn't, it's kind of you could consider that a penalty on you, you know? And so they've removed that and they've removed other things from the equation like that as well. To that end, I generally want to leave you with, they pay for academics, and now I even need to define that. They pay for the classrooms, science, you know, your world course. And you'll see later on where they have limited participation in, there's non-academics. And what is that? Well, your music, drama, you know, theater, athletics, site work, you know, so things outside of the building that have kind of fall into the, you know, like that school may have a little bit more, this school might not have any of that. And so they've come up with this formula so that they're trying to make a formula that universally applies to all. And I'll continue. These are, so I already went over the category, these are space limitations. So this process, just to let you know, the school building committee knows, think of it as that we're going to be issuing 3 reports to the MSBA. And we're filtering down from many options of how the building should be, and we're eventually going to have one option. You know, whether it's ad reno or new or, you know, and whatever, where it is on the site, things like that. Within each one, they're going to be the MSBA is going to be reviewing our submission, and they're going to come back with comments that look just like this. And it's going to have like 4 academic. And in this case, there was a central chemical storage room. Well, they allow 1, and Agawam needed 2 in their design. Well, the MSBA only pays for 1, and they stood their ground and said, you know, this is going to be extra on you. Now we're going to health and physical education. There's a general cap, and Agawam, in reviewing their program, you know, decided that they needed the extra 2,000 square feet there. And the MSBA said, that's great, you can have it, but, you know, this is going to be excluded from the grant, which means if it's excluded from the grant, that means it's all on the district. So that's money that's shifting 100% to you guys versus the 35%, you know, that you would have to have been paying. So. And again, auditorium and drama, right? Administrating guidance. Now the administrating guidance one was interesting where, you know, they proposed something over the limit, but they did allow us to have an extra school resource officer's office. So, you know, there is some play, but generally, as you can see, not much, and especially in some of the categories. So.
Sorry, James, can you clarify? Did you say the administration space is ineligible or a piece of it is eligible?
Central administration, district administration
Yes.
is not eligible because
Got it.
not every school.
That's what I wanted to clarify. So
Yeah.
the high school administration is allowed beyond that.
Yeah,
it's not.
exactly.
Sorry, got it, okay.
Every school needs admin,
Okay.
but
That
they
makes
don't
sense.
need.
Got it.
They don't have
Yep,
district admin
understood.
attached to it.
Thank you.
And finally, they have this, you know, this, so those were they have those, you can see the buckets where, you know, auditorium and drama, they give a certain level. And they have these other category of spaces that didn't fall into those. And so in the case of Agawam, they had a district IT that was housed at the high school. And they wanted to keep it at the high school. They determined that's where they wanted. And so they understood that this was not going to be eligible at 2,000 square feet. 1,000 square feet. One thing I also want to point out is you know, sometimes you think like, oh man, they must be building Taj Mahal. You know, why is it? Yeah. In every one of these, I'm showing like, the first report is called PDP, Preliminary Design Program. The second one the second submission is PSR, the Preferred Schematic Report, and the final is SD. And so you can see, they're sharpening their pencil. You know, they started, well, we really need 14. And let's get it down to 1,000, all right? We can live with 1,000. You know, same thing here, 2860, and they got it to 2,000, and you know, greenhouse, that was a different thing. They took it all together. But even, this large instructional presentation space, 28 to 26. So, they're working hard. They're trying to get it down. They're not just, freewheeling spending. They're going to be like, they had the same conversations I envision us having. Do we really need this big of space? Do we need it? Not. And one thing that I found when we were envisioning, I'll just relay again, is that it is a general. We're finding that modern education needs spaces like this. You have classrooms, you can house 25 people, and you have the auditorium that can house 670 or whatever it is. But you don't have these 50, 100 people fit in there. And Agawam wanted it, we want it, but currently it's just not part of the MSBA model yet. So.
Are there okay, sorry.
I'm gonna tee it up for him.
Yeah.
Pre-kindergarten, that's not eligible?
Here you go. In the case of Agawam, they had the unfortunate circumstance, I was involved after they submitted the SOI, but they did not put in their SOI, which is the very first step. It's really unfortunate, that they wanted to continue on with their pre-K at the high school. And we had it in ours, but because they didn't have it in their SOI, the MSBA says, you can build it, but it's not going to be reimbursable. And so that was they ultimately looked at it and, they're going to take the hit. They wanted to keep the pre-K at the high school. So, but that is not the case here. Pre-K is fully part of the design and part of the project, and the space will be reimbursed on, as long as it fits within the limits that we're getting to. So.
James, on the large presentation space,
Yeah.
I don't want to say workarounds, that's not the right word, but is there an opportunity where, like, if you had a divider in here, so it could be 2 classrooms, but then you would
Yes.
have is that something?
That is always there. We can
Okay.
have 2 classrooms with a divider between
Okay.
a dividing wall between them.
But then you still get the space you need for a
When you
larger-
need it.
Okay.
If you wanted 2 classrooms, you do. If you need just one, you can have that.
Okay.
They also have that even on, we saw on the tours, you saw some of the glass doors or glass
Very cool.
panels so that you could spill out into the hallway and utilize that
Oh, neat.
space.
Okay.
Just expand this a little more.
Thanks.
So I'm trying to keep with that same theme. You saw the 2 lines before, the ineligible costs and then contingency and the scope exclusions. I'm giving you the real detail of what those are. And to be, sorry, no pun intended, be 1,000% clear, 100% clear. This is all apples to apples, so this 100, everything beneath this adds up to 100%, so all this. But then these are the exclusions, right? Scope exclusions. All of these add up to 100%, so you know what you're comparing apples to apples. What is what's the most common exclusion? I don't know if
Careful,
you
no injuries, please,
No, no.
sorry.
I think explaining, just making sure it's clear what's ineligible, and then explaining what the 43.73% number is.
Yeah. So, without going through every single one, I think we'll just focus on the big guys. That's really, there are these lower caps that, million here, million there, it's students real money, right? That's the phrase. But the big guys, so all that space we were talking about that they're willing and turns out that was 10 million, and that included the pre-K. So 10 million of that 70 was only their space. But what's this other number? They just happen to have a lot of site costs. New fields, whatever, paving, whatnot. So these are things that we're conscious of, we're going to be aware of. But if there's any desire, well, if you want 9 new baseball fields, whoever it is, it's gonna. We have a cap, we have an allowance, and so the MSB only pays so much. So we're going to be mindful of that. But this one, the eligible construction cost over funding cap. What I didn't go over, this is the main kicker that the MSBA puts an artificial limit on how much the construction costs that they're going to contribute to per square foot. How much? So, for example, the current limit is $605 a square foot. So we estimate the building, and we see how much it's gonna cost, we have the size of the building in square feet, you divide those two numbers. But right now, costs are coming in, well, I mean,
What was that one?
Agawam was 945.
Okay.
Yeah. And that was 2024. And they're at 605, and they were at 550, so they've even increased. But at the time, they're at 550. You know, so, you know, we can't dictate the market, you know. We do, you know, low bid and you know, things like that. But so that's just, you know, the MSBA it's a wonderful process, but it just, you know, FYI, you know, I guess you could justify they're trying to make sure that everyone gets the right amount of funding, or that they're spreading the funding around. I don't know.
So after all the ineligible things, what was the?
Yes. So when you add all those up, this is what we call net reimbursement. They do have a 65% reimbursement. That is the formula. That's the variable, right? But if you really look at how much is 152 out of the 229. Or, I'm sorry, this 100 out of the 229. It's only 43%. That's your net, your real. What are you really getting? You know, what's their cost share? It's not 65%. It was 43%. 43%.
James, did they use 100% of the contingency?
I'm sorry?
Did they use 100% of the contingency?
No. Excellent point.
Okay.
In general, that's a great point. This is at schematic design,
Oh, got it.
and these are max dollars. So, on one hand, this is your max reimbursement grant, but that's assuming that you're spending every single dollar above, you know. So if you're not, well then, you know, the number changes too, because like if you're not spending it, well then they're not going to reimburse you on money you're not spending either. So, but yeah, fair point.
Question.
Yeah.
So the where we're at now, Josh is about to push out a draft of the education plan.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about the role of the education plan in sort of what's eligible, ineligible? Does it play any kind of a role in this?
Yes, it can. Yes, it can. Remember there was like the second SRO office that they allowed? Yeah, so there was, that's part of the ed, I'm sure there was an argument in the ed plan that said we need a second SRO, and this is why. And the MSBA said that. So, there are gonna be spaces that, you know, and HMF, and let me just say that HMFH is our awesome partner, and they're well-versed, and they know what's happened on other school projects. They almost exclusively work on school projects, MSBA school projects. And so they will guide us, you know, so that the ed plan and the drawings inform one another, and so that, you know, the spaces are going to be, ineligible spaces are minimized where they can be.
So the ed plan is the narrative for the pictures, right? So basically, HMFH has these drawings. You want to know what the drawings are all about, you read the ed plan, right? And so if things are showing up in this is the way I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong. If things are showing up in the drawings and they're not in the ed plan, they're most likely going to be ineligible, right? So, like, different science rooms, or the Chapter 74 programming, or, you know, some of the special ed programming that we have, all of those things need to show up in the ed plan.
Yep.
So
And they'll make their way on the drawings.
when the drawings show up,
Yeah.
there's an argument to be had for why those things are important.
Yep, that's right. Yeah. I guess on the, again, so I'm going to pick on it, and I hate to. I was heavily involved in athletics, so I really appreciated it. But, you know, if you're part of your ed plan says, and we plan to have 9 athletic fields, and you know, okay, well, but then you also know that there'll be a comment that this is all ineligible based on the site cost and all that. So. We will have those conversations as we review the ed plan, you know. So we will offer that lens and advice the best we can, so that we understand how you want to teach and how you want to operate the school over the next 50 years, and then through the lens of, okay, how does that impact reimbursement and cost?
Yeah, and so you were talking about phys ed as an example, right?
Yeah.
You were talking about, to us, a gym is a gym, right?
That's right.
But to them, a gym is a teaching space or three
Yes.
teaching spaces.
Yes.
So if you think of Woodland, you have multiple teaching spaces because you have the gym and then you have the room next to it.
Right.
So the total square footage can be broken up into like 2 different spaces or 3 or 4 different spaces, but it's all about teaching spaces rather than what it's used for, I guess.
Yeah, no, that was great. That was one of those paradigm shifts again. It's like, you know, people commonly ask, "Are we going to get a new gym? Are we going to keep the wrestling room? Are we going, you know?" And the answer is the MSBA is all about academics. So and they're really focused on PE more so than this is for wrestling. You know, so if you can justify that you need the space as a teaching area to get your kids throughout the day, you know, then we can justify that space and have it, you know. So that's you know, again, that's not how you and I talk. It's like, hey, we're getting a gym, you know. It's, you know, we don't refer to teaching spaces.
There's a really good question last night because we talked about the net reimbursement rate, and so
I have another slide. I don't know if you want to talk about that one or not.
is this the
Yeah.
okay? Well,
You want
okay.
this?
So the question was, and it ties into this.
Yeah.
Is can you build a school today with 100% of your
No.
given?
Ineligible, right?
Right.
Can you make it 100? Can you make 0 ineligibles?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And the answer was no.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, and yeah, it was a great question. I want to clarify why. Right? You could probably. There's 3 buckets. Remember? Well, and so in automatic we have that cost cap of construction. I mean, so could you build a school for 605? I would say that's impossible. You know, it's in this day and age, that's impossible. There's one strike. Could you have a school that followed every single? They have a thing called a space summary where all you do is put in a design enrollment, and it'll 44 classrooms, 14 science classrooms, 10,000 gym space. You know, can you build towards that? Yes, you could, but there's still going to be, you know, how does it work within your, you know, your teaching models and things like that? Like you know, so you know, it's hypothetical, but the reality is, no, you know, there's never. And to that end, these are since 2014, so we started construction, and I worked on this, Gregor Lowell. What you're looking at here, so historical net reimbursement. There's, I think, 43 projects, high schools. You know, these are just the high schools that have been since 2014 that have been run through the MSBA. And they stop at, for some reason, they only have post data until August 2024, so it's missing a couple of years already. And so I have their reimbursement rate and the net, and even what the variance is, just to show. I worked on this. At 0.15, that is fantastic. They were almost there, right? I'll tell you how they got there. Greater Lowell Tech is a $500,000, Austin Powers moment there. 500,000 square foot school. It's huge. But what we were doing was basically an MEP replacement and with a new cafeteria and some science livings. We didn't touch any VOTEC spaces. We didn't touch any classrooms. I think we touched bathrooms, you know, so there was huge swaths of the building that we did not touch. And so when we're talking about gross square feet, well, you know, you paid $1,000 for the new construction, but then you paid 0 for the rest, and then there's your $500 square foot, and lo and behold, you're under the. That's how that happened. You know, that's a possibility here. That's a possibility. But you know, and I want to show you the numbers were relatively low, and this is 12 years ago. But you start to notice, things are, that's fine. And even here, while it's getting some big numbers, Boston Arts Academy, I'm not even sure. Waltham, I can say that was site work. I don't know if you know anything about Waltham High School. It was basically built into the side of a mountain that had tons and tons and tons of blasting. Site work is ineligible. And so that's part of the project, and so that's what that is. But what I highlighted this in yellow, most importantly, well, ag homes are on the bottom, but, you know, May 2021, COVID, we had like a 2-year spike, you know, a 20% spike in 2 years, is what I'm trying to say. Anyway, you just see how the numbers are no longer in the teens in 20, or in the teens in single digits, and 24, 25, 20, you know, and there's ag home at 21, at 22.01. I'd be remiss, HMFH projects, you know, theirs is the Bristol Plymouth, they're at 14.55, and I think they had Saugus over here at 16, Saugus High School.
Watch out.
Yep, thank you. So that's a little feather in their cap. You know that they aim for this as well. They know they that's the proof that we have an architect that, I'll say it, you know, they're not a star-architect, you know, and they really are here trying to maximize the school for the district, you know, under this MSBA model. And I think there's the proof of that. I think that was, oh yeah, so, you know, just going to the last, just a reiteration that, you know, if you thought that, you know, the MSBA, you know, participates in all needed costs of the school, no, not that's not the right, or, as I already mentioned, if the exclusions are high, and they must just be spending like you know, a drunken sailor. No, the MSBA has just created a cost-sharing model that can be uniformly applied throughout the Commonwealth. You know, it may or may not cover each district's unique needs. So, I think that was it.
Thank you, James. Do we have any questions for
Yeah.
James? Yeah, Chris?
Yeah, quick, thank you very much, James, for coming in. Every time, this is in a sense my third time, but again, I continue to learn. One thing is, James did present this last night. Milford TV was there to record it, so I encourage anybody to watch that recording, because then also HMFH was there from their side and presentation. So again, to continue to kind of keep up, you know, be up to speed with it, do it that way. Bristol Plymouth, do you know, did they bring the general contractor in early, like we are hoping to in that area?
I think Bristol Plymouth was one that they actually did not.
Did not, okay.
They did on all their other projects.
Yep.
I know, but Bristol Plymouth
Yep.
was what's called the traditional design bid build model, where they 100% designed it and then had the GCs bid it out.
Okay,
Now
but-
they did end up with Consigli,
Right,
who is
okay.
who has both hats. They can be both GC and CM.
Okay, and yeah, and we'll hit on it. We're looking at that CM
Yes.
At risk. Does that typically create more savings in the long run and prevent that, keep that reimbursement rate high?
We tend
By having them come
to, so it's not a black and white thing, because you don't have an exact project going on at the same time that's doing the other way, that's doing design bid build. But I can tell you from my perspective and my experience, especially with what we're doing here, well, let me back up. Typically you choose a general contractor if it's like 100%, you know, greenfield, you know, it's a new site, they just need to build ground up. There's nothing they're tying into. You know, it's super easy construction. CM is good for phasing. They're good at managing. If you're like knocking down a portion and building a portion and that's where you want a CM, because they're handling that phasing and those logistics. Not to say that GCs can't do that, but you know, they own it better, and they understand those things. Secondly, there really is I don't want to say psychological difference, but when you bring on the CM, especially when he's going to be with us during design, he's now part of the team, you know, and he's getting his fingers involved in the design, and he's kind of having some ownership of the project. When you have a GC, well, you can imagine a scenario where he hasn't been involved. You're giving him something, all of a sudden he has to bid on it in 4 to 6 weeks. He's got to get up to speed. And oh yeah, by the way, this is Massachusetts public procurement. It's got to be low bid. So he's trying to get the lowest number in there. And so once he gets on board, there's this tension of, okay, now I got to make my money, whatever. So you can see, so from that perspective, for all the CMs I've worked with, that has been removed. You know, there's tension, but you know, they're a part of your team now, and especially when you get them involved in the design here, there's none of this, well, I didn't know about it. You know, you were sitting right here when we came up with that estimate. Why are you telling me it's more now? So, you know, does that answer, did that?
Yeah, like I said, I was just trying to equate for
Yeah.
everybody else,
Yeah.
You know, we're certainly looking at different ways to maximize our reimbursement, and
Yeah.
one being that, bringing that CM on board early to help in that process, to,
Yeah.
again, to be able to understand when we go from schematic design and look into the phasing in of the construction side of things and how to best approach it, and again, to minimize the costs. Another, guess it's not necessarily as much into the reimbursement side, but you know how there is a spreadsheet in the enrollment, and how the architect went through, put our enrollment projections and it kind of into a spreadsheet, and it spits out kind of an overall size of what the school will be. But then the education plan that the administration's working on, that's going to drive basically how we utilize that overall footprint. So that'll be something of interest for us too, as we move along and see truly how many classroom spaces are going to be within the entire footprint, and what those classroom spaces will be. So again, the ed plan, and how important the ed plan is, and how much work is going behind that ed plan to really drive that. And then the last thing is the Chapter 74 vote programs. Josh presented last night. There is some change up in that they added it from 9 programs to 10 programs. They changed about 3 or 4 programs, and I think that was based off some feedback from BBT on what programs would be best suited. You know, what are the programs that BBT is having difficult time having kids be interested in, and what programs have high interest, so therefore let's expand out and grow the number of students that are going to be in there. So again, if you watched last night's program, as typical, Josh does a great job presenting it, so from that side. But yeah. Just wanted
Yeah,
to
no, that
add
was,
in.
Thank you. Any other questions? Meg?
What's the typical contract structure for the construction contract? Like, cost structure? What is a firm fixed price? Like, how do they?
so for CM, it is usually a general conditions plus fee.
Okay.
So we will know, the way we typically hire them is, you know, we give them a size of a project,
Mhm.
and you know, and we tell them how long it's going to take, how much we think it's going to cost, and they turn around and give us what they think it's going to take to run that, and how many staff and all and whatnot. And so it's really transparent in that term, versus design bid build. It's just you get the one number, and you don't know what, you know. You really don't know if is there 10 staff or 2 or
Got it.
you're trusting, but so yeah. That, in that regards, having a CM is just a lot more transparent. You know what you're getting.
Thank you.
So
And then does HMF or
You got
do
it,
they offer-
almost.
so close consultative service on the ed plan also? I don't think I was appreciating that it has to go both ways. Are they also like
Yeah.
really okay?
They're, so we just went through a whole visioning process, and Mike, I think was the name of the consultant. He's gonna have a report,
Okay.
based on what everybody,
Okay.
all the different meetings that we had. That's gonna feed into what Josh is doing. But throughout the whole thing, HMFH also is gonna like give reports to Josh.
Okay.
It's all.
Because when you said Josh
all-inclusive.
has the ed plan, I'm like, good, we're all set. But then I'm like, wait a minute, I don't think I
There's-
appreciated the
There's
design component
very,
to
there's a
that.
lot of people feeding
Okay.
Yeah,
into it.
HMFH has a consultant, a guy named Mike, whose whole job is to help
The ed plan.
This-
show
and,
this through.
Okay.
And he was a former teacher, I think.
Yes.
and Roger too.
Yeah,
Roger's
Roger, yeah.
Roger's doing the chapter 74 stuff.
Excellent. Okay, thank you. I didn't appreciate that.
yes, we have 2 consultants, like you mentioned. One is for VOTEC, that's going to guide us and let us know. You know. And it's funny, his name's Roger Bourgeois. He was actually the superintendent at Greater Lowell. I was working with him when he was the superintendent there on that project. Now he's retired from superintendents and no longer working the 60+ hours a week, and you know, he was
Day.
yeah. So he's just doing normal consulting. And so they're helping in that regard, because you know who here knows about Chapter 74, right? And the visioning is we have a special consultant, HMFH does, really trying to tease out, this is a building for the next 50 years. What's its identity more than any, how is it gonna, how does it want to reflect Milford and the education that we want and, things like that. And that was its primary purpose, was to tease that out. And then lastly, like you mentioned, the ed plan, well, so they're working through that, but what you need for space needs to go into the plans and vice versa. And so they're always informing one another.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, so the ed plan is, what are we doing now and where do we want to be, basically?
Yes.
Brendan had a question.
Thank you for the presentation, James. Would you mind opening up your laptop and just going back to slide 10?
Sure.
There was a question that I just had about the bottom of it. And then I have a second question after that as well.
No problem.
You only get one. I'm just kidding.
Also, question number 2.
Question 1A. I'm sorry.
Well, while we wait, one thing I got out of it, Chris, please, you're there. So after the meeting, Chris and I were asking the lead architect a lot of questions about this stuff. And what I got out of it is that for the reimbursement rate, it's a complicated reimbursement schedule that's not a strategy, it's a schedule that you hire the architects to be the experts on. And they are literally going, so when they get the building square footage in the ed plan, they got to go through this schedule and say, okay, it's supposed to be 20 classrooms, what are we allowed to the schedule, and then try to massage it all in to make it efficient. I don't know how, Chris,
No, that's explained very well. Yes, there's a lot to it, right? It's
Yeah.
complex.
This one?
Yep. So any cost determined by the authority to be an eligible pursuit. So is this like basically a catch-all for them to say there might be other things that are not clearly defined on these?
That's
ineligible
correct.
items? Is there an example that you have that Agawam or someone recently that you came up with that they said that was not listed here specifically, but that they came back and said we're not paying for it?
There was actually. I had it on the slide. Well, let me answer it this way. They have a thing called project advisories, and they're up to, I think, 100 now. So there's just there's basically just a whole bunch of different advisory rules, and one of them was on site work, and so they specifically spelled out. It must not have been specifically spelled out here, but stadiums, concession stands, paths to and from, or something like that, and so. I imagine there was I'm assuming it came up on a previous project, and they said, all right, let's clarify it going forward. This is what we're not paying for. So, but by and large, they are a consistent, it's not, I feel like it's going to be this today. No, they're at least they're consistent, they're reliable. So it's good.
And then the second question, in terms of like, when we did Woodlawn and how these ineligible costs or the rate, is that like the same? Obviously they've evolved over the years, but
Yes.
the same kind of concept has remained from.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the same concept. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we went through the same thing.
I just wanted to like clarify, because you were just saying like a shift. So I didn't know if there was a shift from the MSBA
No,
or if it's just
no,
a shift in mindset, how we have to think about.
Just the layman's mindset of how we
Perfect.
do the simple math, and that's not simple math.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Yes, Chris.
Good. Good point on Woodland. Woodland, the reimbursement rate was in the 60s, and it ended
Yes.
up at what was the
I
final?
don't-
Do you
I d-
recall? It was mentioned last
Yeah.
night at the school building by Jonathan, but
Right,
I wasn't
no.
sure if you remembered.
I
It
don't
was-
remember, and I didn't do the. Yeah, I didn't do that.
It wasn't like a huge loss, which was good. So
Yeah.
if again, James was on the project, HMFH was on that project, so
Yeah.
more confidence there too, which is great.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Super helpful.
James, thank you for your time.
Yeah.
Really
Thank you.
appreciate it. Future agenda items. Any future agenda items? No? All right, roll call vote to go into executive session. Matt?
Yes.
Chris?
No. Oh, I'm sorry, I got distracted.
Sorry.
Did you say anything on future agenda items?
I did.
Missed it. It's his
So,
fault.
Chris?
No, right now, can we go back?
We have to continue the vote, right?
Then can you revote? I'm gonna put it on you as the new chair.
You weren't listening.
Well, you just heard me, I'm no.
Thanks,
I'm gonna
James.
try to make this,
Well,
try to recircle this back.
is there discussion or something that you can just email to us for the long-term agenda? Just whisper.
I'll email.
All right, yeah, it's just, is an item, you know, right? So, go into exec session.
Yes.
John?
Yes.
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 Thank you. Bruce, yes. Exec session, you staying here?
No.